What if I told you this mansion is not just haunted by ghosts, but by something older and more dangerous? In Illinois, the Scofield Mansion has witnessed violent deaths, shadow figures, and voices that call people by name. Some believe Jinn live inside these walls, watching every visitor. Tonight, we step inside the Scofield Mansion, where history, horror, and the unseen collide. The Scofield Mansion stands at the edge of a quiet Illinois town, its tall windows watching the world like unblinking eyes. By day, it looks like a grand, forgotten relic of another era. But when night falls, the house changes. The wind moves differently here, whispering through the trees as if something inside the mansion is calling out. They say the Scofield family once lived in luxury and pride. Wealth flowed through these halls, laughter echoed in the ballroom, and candlelight reflected off polished wood and glass. But wealth can hide darkness. Behind the elegant walls, arguments turned violent, secrets festered, and tragedy slowly crept into every room. One night, a violent death shattered the mansion's peace. Blood stained the floorboards, and screams echoed through the corridors. Servants fled, neighbors whispered, and the mansion was never the same again. Some say more than one soul met a terrible end inside these walls, their anger and pain forever trapped in the wood and stone. Visitors who dare to step inside after sunset feel something heavy in the air. Footsteps follow them, but when they turn around, no one is there. Doors creak open on their own, and cold spots appear in the middle of warm rooms. Some claim they saw a woman in a long dress standing near the staircase, her face pale, her eyes empty, staring silently, as if waiting for someone who will never return. Others talk about a shadow moving across the hallway, tall and unnatural, bending in ways no human body should. Paranormal investigators recorded voices, whispering their names, even when the house was completely empty. Children nearby say they see lights in the windows late at night, even though no one lives there anymore. But there is another layer to the Scofield Mansion's mystery. Local folklore speaks of Jinn, ancient spirits that exist alongside our world. Some believe the violent emotions and deaths inside the mansion opened a door, attracting these unseen entities. Jinn are said to feed on fear and sorrow, and this house is full of both. Late at night, people hear scratching inside the walls, like claws dragging slowly across wood. Some say it is not ghosts, but something older, something watching from the shadows. A few brave explorers reported feeling touched, their hair pulled, their names whispered directly into their ears, in voices that did not sound human. One investigator claimed he saw glowing eyes in the dark hallway, not reflecting light like an animal, but emitting their own faint glow. He ran out of the mansion, refusing to return, saying the presence felt intelligent, aware, and angry at being disturbed. The Scofield Mansion does not simply feel haunted, it feels alive, as if the spirits, ghosts, and Jinn are still walking its corridors, still replaying their tragic stories, still watching anyone who dares to enter their domain. And if you stand quietly in the central hall, holding your breath, you might hear footsteps climbing the stairs, even though no one is there. The Scofield Mansion was once a symbol of power, elegance, and untouchable wealth. Built with towering walls and grand halls, it was meant to impress, to intimidate, and to remind everyone in town that the Scofield family was above ordinary people. But behind the polished doors and velvet curtains, something dark was always growing, quietly, silently, waiting for the right moment to break free. The first tragedy came on a stormy night. Thunder rolled across the sky as lightning lit up the mansion's windows like white fire. Inside, a heated argument erupted between family members. Voices rose, tempers exploded, and suddenly the sound of a struggle echoed through the halls. Moments later, silence fell, heavy, unnatural silence. When servants rushed in, they found a lifeless body on the floor, eyes frozen in terror, as if they had seen something beyond this world just before death claimed them. But that was only the beginning. Whispers spread through the town that the Scofield Mansion was cursed. Some claimed another family member died under mysterious circumstances, falling down the grand staircase late at night. Others said a servant vanished completely, leaving behind only footprints leading to a locked room that had not been opened in decades. People began to say that the house did not just witness violence. It absorbed it, drinking in fear and suffering like a living entity. As the deaths piled up, the mansion's atmosphere changed. Guests refused to stay overnight. Servants quit without explanation. Their faces pale, their voices trembling, as they spoke of shadows, watching them from the corners of their eyes. One maid swore. She saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway, dripping with blood, whispering her name in a voice that echoed inside her mind. Then came the rumors of the unseen. Local elders spoke quietly of Jinn, ancient spirits that exist beyond human sight. They believed that the violent deaths, the rage, the sorrow, and the terror had torn a thin veil between worlds. The mansion, they said, had become a doorway. Jinn are drawn to places of emotional intensity, and the Scofield Mansion was soaked in it. Late at night, neighbors reported hearing screams coming from the house, even though no one lived there anymore. The screams would rise, fade, then return again, as if replaying the moment of death over and over. Dogs refused to go near the property, growling and whining, their fur standing on end. Birds avoided the trees around the mansion, leaving it eerily silent during the day. Inside, the walls seemed to remember everything. Some visitors claimed they heard whispers in different languages, not English, not human. Strange murmurs that sounded ancient, echoing from inside the bricks. Others felt sudden bursts of anger, sadness, or fear for no reason, as if the emotions of the dead were seeping into their minds. A paranormal investigator once stood in the main hall and felt a sudden pressure on his chest, like invisible hands pushing him down. He later said, it felt like something was trying to show him how it died. Another claimed he saw shadowy figures reenacting moments of violence, moving through walls, collapsing to the floor, screaming without sound. And as the nights grew darker, people began to wonder if the mansion was not just haunted by ghosts, but inhabited by something far older, Jinn who had attached themselves to the suffering souls, feeding on their pain, walking the halls, and waiting for new visitors to feel fear. The Scofield Mansion does not simply tell a story of death. It forces anyone who enters to feel it, to sense it, to become part of the tragedy that never truly ended. As the years passed, the Scofield Mansion became known, not only for its violent past, but for the figures that refused to leave. People didn't just feel presences here, they saw them. The most famous apparition is the woman in the long white dress. Witnesses describe her as standing at the top of the grand staircase, her hand resting lightly on the railing, her head slightly tilted, as if listening for footsteps that will never come. Her face is pale, almost translucent, and her eyes seem filled with endless sorrow. Some say she was once a member of the Scofield family, waiting for a loved one who died in the mansion. Others believe she is something else entirely, a spirit shaped by grief, held together by the house itself. Late at night, her figure has been seen walking slowly down the hallway, her feet never touching the floor. When people approach her, she fades into the walls, leaving behind a sudden chill that crawls into their bones. One visitor claimed she whispered, "Don't stay," before vanishing into the darkness. But she is not alone. Shadow figures roam the corridors, tall, distorted silhouettes that move when no one is watching. They stand in doorways, lean against walls, and disappear when lights are turned on. Some investigators say these shadows are not human ghosts, but Jinn, beings of smokeless fire, able to take on dark shapes to frighten humans. In the Scofield Mansion, these shadows sometimes move against the light, sliding upward on walls or stretching across ceilings, defying logic and gravity. There are reports of a child-like apparition near the old bedrooms. Small footsteps echo at night, running across the wooden floors, followed by faint laughter that stops abruptly when someone calls out. Paranormal teams recorded tiny handprints appearing on dusty surfaces, then fading away as if something invisible was touching the physical world. In the ballroom, a tall male figure is often seen standing near the windows, staring outside into the darkness. His presence feels heavy, oppressive. Some say he was once the master of the house, his anger and pride too strong to move on. Others believe a powerful Jinn has taken his form, mimicking a human spirit to blend into the haunting. One night, a caretaker saw multiple figures standing in the hallway, silent, still, watching him. When he blinked, they were gone. Only the sound of breathing remained, echoing through the empty mansion. Visitors often feel someone standing behind them, only to find nothing when they turn around. Mirrors sometimes reflect movement when the room is empty. Doors slowly open, as if someone unseen is entering. And sometimes, a handprint appears on glass, then fades away, as if a ghost or Jinn is pressing against the barrier between worlds. The most terrifying sightings occur in the attic. Shadows gather there, forming shapes that resemble people, but twisted, elongated, unnatural. Some believe these are Jinn who have made the attic their dwelling place, feeding on fear, whispering into the minds of anyone who dares to climb the stairs. Those who stay too long in the Scofield Mansion begin to feel watched, followed, studied. The apparitions are not random, they seem aware, intelligent, and curious about the living. And sometimes, they seem angry that their silence has been disturbed. If you stand alone in the mansion's hallway, with all the lights turned off, you might see a faint figure at the end of the corridor. It will not move. It will simply watch you. And as your eyes adjust to the darkness, you may realize it is not a ghost at all, but something older, something formed of shadow and smoke. Something that never died because it was never alive in the first place. When paranormal investigators began visiting the Scofield Mansion, they thought they were prepared. They brought cameras, voice recorders, motion sensors, and night vision equipment, convinced they would simply document a typical haunting. But the mansion seemed to react to them, as if it knew it was being watched. On their first night, they set up audio recorders in the main hall and bedrooms. Hours passed in silence, until a faint whisper broke through the static. It wasn't wind. It wasn't footsteps. It was a voice, slow and clear, speaking a name that matched one of the investigators. When they played it back, everyone felt a chill. No one had said his name out loud that night. Later, they heard footsteps upstairs, heavy, deliberate footsteps walking back and forth. The team rushed upstairs, but the hallway was empty. Dust covered the floor, yet fresh footprints appeared slowly, one by one, forming in front of their eyes, then stopping as if whoever, or whatever, was standing there had realized it was being watched. In one of the bedrooms, the temperature suddenly dropped. Their thermal camera showed a cold spot shaped like a human figure, standing beside the bed. As one investigator approached, the shape moved closer to him, and he felt an icy breath on his neck. He turned around, but no one was there. The cold shape vanished the moment he looked directly at it. Doors began opening on their own. A heavy wooden door that required force to move slowly creaked open, inch by inch, until it was wide open. The air pressure in the room did not change. The windows were closed. The team watched in silence, realizing something unseen was moving through the house. Then the voices began to multiply. In the ballroom, their recorders captured whispers in strange tones. Some sounded like crying. Others sounded like laughter. One voice spoke in a language none of the team recognized, low and distorted. A linguistics expert later suggested it resembled no modern language, possibly something ancient. This fueled the theory that Jinn might be present, entities older than humans, communicating in tongues long forgotten. As the night deepened, the motion sensors triggered repeatedly, showing movement in the hallway and attic. But when investigators checked the footage, the shapes were not human. They were tall, thin, shifting forms, flickering like smoke. Sometimes they moved unnaturally fast. Sometimes they stood still, watching the cameras directly, as if aware of being recorded. One camera captured a shadow passing through a solid wall. Another recorded a figure sitting on a chair, then vanishing in a blink. In one chilling clip, a dark mass appeared above a sleeping investigator, bending down as if observing his face. When he woke up suddenly, the mass disappeared. Strange physical interactions were also reported. Objects fell from shelves. Chairs moved slightly. A glass shattered with no visible cause. One investigator felt something tug on his jacket, pulling him backward. Another felt a hand on his shoulder, warm and firm, as if someone was standing beside him. The Jinn theory became stronger when one recorder captured a deep, whispering voice saying, "This is ours." The tone was not emotional, not human. It sounded possessive, territorial. Some believe the Jinn had claimed the mansion as their domain, using ghosts as echoes of human suffering, while they themselves existed as hidden rulers of the darkness. Electric equipment malfunctioned constantly. Batteries drained within minutes. Cameras shut off when pointed at certain areas, especially the attic and staircase. Investigators reported feeling dizzy, confused, and emotionally overwhelmed, as if something was influencing their minds. One man sat alone in the main hall, listening to the silence. Suddenly, he heard breathing directly beside his ear. Slow, deliberate breathing. He felt warm breath on his skin. He turned on his flashlight, and for a split second, he saw a face, pale, hollow-eyed, staring inches from his own. Then the light flickered, and the face vanished. As the night continued, the mansion seemed to grow more active, more alive. Every sound felt intentional. Every shadow felt watched. Every whisper felt directed at the living. And when dawn finally arrived, the investigators left with hours of footage, voices, and unexplained evidence, but also with a feeling that the Scofield Mansion had allowed them to leave, rather than failing to stop them. Because some believe the spirits and jinn inside do not want people to leave. They want witnesses. The longer people studied the Scofield Mansion, the more they began to believe that ghosts were only part of the story. Something else was here. Something older. Something that never lived as a human and never died as one. Local elders and spiritual scholars whispered that the mansion had become a gathering place for jinn, beings made of smokeless fire, unseen by most humans, but always present in the unseen world. They believed the violent deaths, intense emotions, and fear had torn a thin veil between realms, and the Scofield Mansion stood exactly where that veil was weakest. They say jinn are attracted to abandoned places, dark corners, and locations soaked in human suffering. And the Scofield Mansion had all of it. The sorrow of the dead, the anger of the living, the loneliness of the forgotten. All of it acted like a beacon in the spiritual world. Visitors often described a presence that did not feel human. Ghosts feel emotional, tied to memories, repeating moments of their lives. But this presence felt aware, calculating, and curious. Some said it felt like being watched by something intelligent, something studying them from the shadows. One night, a paranormal researcher tried speaking directly into the darkness, asking if any spirits were present. His recorder captured a response that chilled everyone who heard it. The voice said, slowly and clearly, "We were here before you." That single sentence changed everything. People began reporting encounters that felt different from ghost sightings. Instead of seeing familiar human shapes, they saw dark forms that shifted like smoke, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Some described tall silhouettes that stretched and twisted unnaturally, their limbs bending at impossible angles. Others claimed to see small, fast, moving shapes crawling along the ceiling or darting across the floor. In the attic, a man once felt something sit beside him. He thought it was another investigator, but when he turned, no one was there. Yet the wooden boards creaked as if someone was still sitting. He felt pressure, as though a body was beside him, invisible but real. Religious individuals who entered the mansion reported intense spiritual sensations. Some felt sudden fear without reason. Others felt sadness so heavy it brought them to tears. A few felt an overwhelming urge to leave immediately, as if something was warning them inside their mind. There were stories of people being touched in ways that felt deliberate. A woman felt her hair being gently pulled. A man felt fingers tracing his arm. Another felt something brush past his face, like a hand passing through smoke. When they turned around, they were alone. Some believe the jinn inside the mansion mimic ghosts to confuse humans. They take on the forms of the dead, replay tragedies, whisper names, and create illusions of apparitions. But behind those illusions, they remain unseen, observing and feeding on fear. During certain nights, investigators reported hearing chanting, like sounds deep within the walls, low and rhythmic. It did not resemble prayer or human speech. It sounded ancient, as if something was reciting words older than the mansion itself. When they tried to locate the source, the sound moved, always staying just out of reach. One psychic claimed that the Scofield Mansion sits on a spiritual crossroads, a place where energy from different realms overlaps. She said the ghosts are trapped souls, while the Jinn are visitors who chose to stay, attracted by the chaos and emotion. According to her, some Jinn treat the mansion like a playground, while others act as guardians of the darkness, protecting their territory from intruders. There are accounts of people feeling mentally influenced inside the mansion. Thoughts that were not their own. Sudden fear. Sudden anger. Sudden sadness. Some felt as if something was speaking inside their mind, urging them to stay, to explore deeper, to go upstairs, to open certain doors. One man claimed he heard a voice in his head telling him, "Come to the attic." He resisted and left immediately, later saying the voice felt separate from his own thoughts, cold and commanding. Others reported seeing faces appear in mirrors behind them, then vanish when they turned around. Some saw glowing eyes in complete darkness, not reflecting light but producing it. Some felt breath on their necks, warm and slow, as if something invisible was standing inches away. The idea that Jinn inhabit the Scofield Mansion makes the haunting far more terrifying. Ghosts are echoes of the past. Jinn are beings of the present, watching, thinking, choosing. And inside the Scofield Mansion, they are believed to be watching everyone who enters, waiting silently in the shadows, listening to every footstep, every heartbeat, every whispered prayer, as if the house itself is no longer just haunted by the dead, but inhabited by something that was never human at all. Those who have entered the Scofield Mansion rarely leave without a story. Some refuse to speak about what they experienced. Others share their encounters in trembling voices, as if remembering the mansion still pulls them back into its shadow. One man, a local historian, visited the mansion alone one evening to document its architecture. He walked through the grand hallway with only a flashlight, recording notes on a small recorder. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, heavy footsteps that matched his pace. He stopped. The footsteps stopped. He walked again. The footsteps followed. When he turned around, the hallway was empty, but his recorder later captured a second set of footsteps, clearly layered over his own. A young woman who joined a paranormal tour claimed she saw a figure standing in the doorway of an old bedroom. At first, she thought it was another visitor. But when she stepped closer, she realized the figure had no reflection in the mirror behind it. Its face was blurred, as if wrapped in smoke, and its eyes were dark and hollow. She blinked, and the figure disappeared. But the doorway remained cold, as if something had just passed through it. A group of investigators once stayed overnight in the mansion. Around 20:13 a.m., one of them felt someone sit on the edge of his bed. The mattress sank. He felt weight. He heard slow breathing. When he opened his eyes, he saw a pale face inches from his own, its mouth moving silently. Then the lights flickered, and the figure vanished. His camera recorded the bed dipping again, after he jumped up, as if something invisible was still there. Another witness, a caretaker who worked near the property, reported seeing lights turning on in the windows late at night. He assumed trespassers had entered, so he went inside to investigate. As he walked through the dark hallway, he heard a child's laughter echoing through the house. He followed the sound to the staircase, where he saw a small shadow running upstairs. When he followed, every room was empty. but the laughter continued, echoing from inside the walls. Some eyewitnesses speak of encounters that feel different from ghost stories. Encounters that feel intelligent and deliberate. One man claimed he was touched on the shoulder and heard a voice whisper, "You shouldn't be here." The voice did not sound human. It sounded layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. He later believed it could have been a jinn, warning him or threatening him. Another visitor reported seeing a tall shadow in the attic that did not move like a human. It crawled along the ceiling, its shape stretching and bending unnaturally. When he pointed his flashlight at it, the shadow detached from the ceiling and stood upright, towering over him. He ran downstairs, screaming, and refused to return. A paranormal medium once visited the mansion and claimed she felt multiple presences surrounding her. She said some felt human, sad, confused, repeating moments of pain, but others felt ancient, powerful, and curious. She believed these were jinn, watching the ghosts like observers, feeding on the emotional energy of the place. One chilling story comes from a photographer who captured a strange image in the hallway. In the photo, a dark figure stood behind him, its eyes glowing faintly. He swore no one was behind him when he took the picture. He later reported hearing whispers in his home after visiting the mansion, as if something had followed him. There are also reports of people hearing their names being called inside the mansion, even when they are alone. The voice often sounds familiar, like a loved one, but distorted. Some believe ghosts mimic familiar voices to attract attention. Others believe jinn use these tricks to lure humans deeper into the darkness. One man claimed he heard his deceased mother calling him from the attic. He knew it was impossible, but the voice was perfect, emotional, convincing. He felt compelled to go upstairs, but fear stopped him. Later, investigators suggested such experiences could be spiritual manipulation, something jinn are said to be capable of. Visitors often leave with the feeling that they were being watched the entire time. Some report sudden emotional shifts, fear, sadness, anger without reason. Others feel a strange calm, as if the mansion is slowly pulling them into its silence. And some swear that when they left the Scofield Mansion, they heard footsteps behind them on the path outside, following them into the night, even after they turned around and saw nothing. As time passed, the Scofield Mansion slowly faded from public memory, but history never truly forgets what happened inside those walls. Newspapers stopped writing about it. Neighbors stopped talking about it. Yet the mansion still stands, carrying the weight of every scream, every secret, every shadow that never moved on. History books may record dates and names, but they can never record fear, whispers in the dark, or the feeling of being watched by something unseen. The Scofield Mansion is more than an old house. It is a living chapter of forgotten tragedy, where ghosts and unseen spirits are said to still walk, reminding us that some stories never truly end. And maybe, just maybe, the spirits inside are still waiting for someone to remember them. If you enjoyed this dark historical story, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more haunted places, ghost stories, and mysterious histories from around the world. Your support helps keep these forgotten stories alive, and who knows, maybe the spirits are listening too.